Today's gospel reading picks up literally immediately after last week's. In fact, we read the last verse. The first verse of today was the last verse from last Sunday. So last Sunday, the disciples were exhausted. They were coming off the road after their circuit ministry, having gone all over the land, preaching the kingdom, healing the sick, driving out demons. They were all excited, telling Jesus what had happened. And Jesus says, okay, great, let's go take a rest. And we'll go over out into the wilderness and have some quiet time, right? That's the whole idea. And of course, that didn't happen. Thousands of people followed them out into the wilderness wanting to hear Jesus. And the disciples had to work a whole extra day of exhausting healing and tending and caregiving, and I'm sure they were quite spent. And of course, then Jesus told them, feed them, and they said, we only have this few loaves and a couple fish. And you know the rest of that story. So Jesus didn't give them a break, right? They didn't have much of a break. They were already exhausted. And then he says, get into the boat and go to the other side. Don't even camp here tonight. Don't even rest here tonight. Make yourselves at home. Just go on the boat, get on to the other side. No vacation. Vacation's over, right? Now, the lake is not a big lake. It's just the Sea of Galilee, or Lake Gennesaret. And how big is that? Anybody know off the top of their head? I want to say memory says 13 kilometers. Does that sound right? It's small. It's small. You can see the other side, right? It's not a sea, what we would call a sea. I'm from Michigan, where we have real Great Lakes, which could constitute seas, maybe. You can't see the other side. This you can see. It's a small lake. So it shouldn't have taken them, but what? An hour or two, even in slow waters to get across. But what happens? The winds were contrary. The wind was against them. So they were trying to sail, trying to row, no matter what they could do, they weren't getting anywhere. If you've ever been stuck on the water in either choppy water or doldrums, and you just can't get your ship or your boat to go where you want it to go. And so they're sitting there floating around in the middle, and it doesn't stop. It goes on all night long. They're already exhausted. They're already tired from a long day. And now they're just trying to get to bed. They're just trying to get home so they can go to sleep, finally. And the wind will not let them. And they're in the water and they don't know what to do. Can you imagine the frustration of that experience? I'm reminded, I think Reader Yvonne will remember this, on our way home from Romania, from our real break trip. Of course, it's a long flight, right? You're flying home and you're going to get back to the States late into the evening. And we're supposed to fly into JFK in New York. And it was February, March, right at the cusp there. And a freak winter storm, not a snowstorm, like a thunderstorm with lightning and rain, comes up in New York City. Hurricane strength winds. And our plane starts to circle. The jet starts to circle. And you start, there's nothing to watch except the double satellite images, right? And you start seeing the line, and it goes again, and it goes again. And I think we circled, I don't know how many times, 5, 6 times, and then we're waiting to hear something from the cockpit. What is going on? And finally they say, yeah, we're running out of fuel here to keep doing this, so we're going to fly down to Dulles and land there and refuel, and hopefully we'll get you back to New York by the end of the night. Now you know what I'm talking about. And we get to Dulles, and that is even worse torture, right? Because here we're on the tarmac. I'm 3 inches away, from freedom to be in my home state here in Virginia now. And I'm thinking, please let us off, please let us off. And the night is wearing on, and it's wearing on. And the storm is not abating. And power is lost throughout New York City, New Jersey. The whole thing is totally just a complete mess up. And finally they say, and I felt bad a little for the people who Virginia wasn't the final destination, obviously. But for me, it was like manna from heaven when they finally said, we're going to let you off here and disembark you, and you'll go through customs and everything. This is an international flight, and then you'll have to figure out where you're going from there on your own. They said, we're done with you. And it was the happiest news I had all day. Bad for everybody else, but good for me. And so we get out, we wait, oh my gosh. All the other flights were being directed there, so it was another 2 hours or something waiting in customs, right, to go through and to get all your baggage. And it was just a disaster line. And I don't know what time it is by now. It's 2 or 3 in the morning. Deacon Peter, God bless his heart, and Tanya come, and they lived close enough to Dulles that they opened their house for us, and there was about a dozen, 15 of us? Yeah. It was about 15 of us college students and myself coming back completely wiped out. And they take us into their home, give us some food. A bunch of the kids lined up on their couch and then fell asleep like dominoes, fall right over. And finally, by morning, we figured out where everybody needed to go and got everybody on their way. It was just the most exhausting experience I think I've ever had. And so I read this gospel and I start having a little, remembrance of that experience and how much that must have been and how crazy I was feeling. And I understand now when people get arrested, when they go a little nutty on planes, I totally get that. I have no lack of compassion for them. And so here's the disciples in a similar situation. Completely lost, completely exhausted, hopeless. I'm sure most of them were saying, I have had enough. Just let me get off this boat. I don't care where I go. Let me just float to shore at this point. I don't care, right? And so what do they say? They see something strange. They see Jesus walking on the water. And of course, from Jesus' perspective, it makes perfect sense. I'm the Son of God. Shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. Straight line cuts across the lake. I would walk across the water. No big deal, right? For Jesus, it's a no-brainer. But for the disciples, they don't think that way, right? And they see him walking across the water, and they think they're hallucinating. And I get that too. I'm pretty sure I was hallucinating on that plane by a certain point. I know by 3 o'clock in the morning I was. They couldn't possibly believe what they were seeing. And so they decide to test it, and Peter, who obviously feels he has nothing left to lose, says, if it really is you, let me come and walk to you on the water. He's ready for any excuse to get out of that boat. He's ready to die. He's lost his mind, and I don't blame him. And so Jesus says, okay, come. Because he's Jesus. What's the big deal, right? So Peter gets on the water, and Peter starts walking. And of course, Peter is amazed, and they're all amazed. But then Peter looks around, and the water must be splashing on him or something, and he starts to wake up a little and realize this is not a hallucination, this is not a dream, and something very, very strange is going on. I'm walking on the water. And he looks around and he sees that the water is still wavy and calamitous, and the winds are strong and boisterous. It's a rather blustery day or night. And he starts to sink. And he loses sight of where he's going and who has called him. And he starts to sink into the waves. And of course, at that point, he can't do anything about it. All he can do is reach out and cry, Jesus, save me. Jesus, Lord, save me. And of course, Jesus says, okay, sure. What's the big deal? I'm here for you. I'm here. And he takes his hand and he lifts him up. So why did you have such little faith? I love the Akathist hymn that we sang before liturgy. One of the sets of hymns there starts with, Peter was sinking in a storm of internal thoughts and being overwhelmed by the disturbance of life, of temptations. It was a spiritual problem, not a physical problem. The physical problem had been solved. Jesus already showed you can walk on the water. But he had a spiritual problem that prevented him from realizing it. And so he was sinking. Now, as I read this gospel this week, it came to me and I realized that this story has not ended. The plain story is still going on because this is life. It just becomes more apparent some days than others. But pretty much every day of life is being on that ship or being on that plane and not getting where you want to go is the way you want to get there, and being ready to just give up hope. That's how life is on a lot of days. Maybe more days than others, right? But most days it's pretty boisterous and pretty noisy, and there's a lot of temptations, and there's a storm of internal thoughts and doubts and fears and pains, resentments, griefs, you know the list. And we're ready to do anything. And so maybe one day we decide, you know what? I'm going to put my faith in God. And I can't do this anymore the way I'm doing it. And I need to change my way of life. And I need to walk with God. And I'm going to follow the Lord Jesus. And I'm going to change my life. And I'm going to make myself the better person that I know I can be. And so we decide that we're going to try to jump off that boat and walk across the water to Jesus. And for a little bit, sometimes it works because we have a little bit of faith. But soon enough, we fail to remember who it is that's giving us that grace, who's giving us that power, who's helping us get through the day. And we start to sink, and we start to become overwhelmed. And that's what the word overwhelmed literally means, is waves coming over you. And then we don't see him anymore. We forget. Now, at that point, we could do a couple of things. We could look at ourselves, and we could say, just try harder. That's what you're missing. Just try harder. And you'll walk on that water. How many of you, when you were little and you went to the swimming pool, thought it was a cool idea to run as fast as you possibly could to the edge of the pool and then try to run across the water, see if you could do it? Anybody do that? Come on. Who didn't? That's awesome. We're on a lake or wherever, as kids we think, but somehow we think we can still do it as adults. We just change the water of the pool or the lake with the waters of life. But we still think that if we just try hard enough, we can make it work. That's not how it ever was going to work. That's not how it was ever meant to be, relying on ourselves. Or we can say, wait, let me just figure some things out first, Lord, and make myself acceptable to you, and then I'll call on you for help or something. Then you will save me. And that doesn't work either. We come to God the way we are, where we are, when we are, how we are. And Jesus saves us. There's nothing we could do to change that we were on the boat in the storm. There's nothing we could do to change that we were stuck on the plane on the tarmac. There's nothing we could do. We had to rely on God. We had to put our faith in him. We had to reach out to him and say, Lord, save me. Not, let me save myself and then I'll be worthy of you. Or let me just try harder and I'll get there. It doesn't work. So brothers and sisters, this is life. A little lake, a little plane, being tossed to and fro on the waves and the wind. And we're on it for as long as we're on it. And even if we think we can jump out, it doesn't help. We're still in the waters of life. So let us put our faith not in ourselves, not in our own thoughts that are the things really bringing us down, but let us put our faith in God, that power so greater than ourselves. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Christ is among us.
He is among us.